Hey everybody, Connor here today at etrailer.com. Today we're going to be going over and showing you how to install the Roadmaster 12-volt outlet kit here on our 2021 Jeep Gladiator. So basically what our 12-volt outlet kit is going to be for, it's going to be for a flat tow setup. So our Jeep here, we actually do have a 12-volt outlet on the dash. However, that 12-volt outlet is actually not going to be powered while our vehicle is set up in tow mode. Now, the reason we're going to need this 12-volt outlet active while we're towing is going to be for a supplemental braking system, such as the Blue Ox Patriot Three, which we see here. So the Blue Ox Patriot is actually going to require a 12-volt power supply while we're driving down the road and it's being towed behind our motorhome, because that's what's going to power it so it can depress the brakes. So again, the 12-volt outlet circuit in our vehicle is going to be dead, so we're going to have to hardwire one directly to the battery, and that's where our Roadmaster kit comes into play. So now our vehicle is set up in tow mode. We have our braking system in the floorboard. We're ready to set this up. Now, we mentioned the factory 12-volt outlet on the vehicle and why we can't use this, because it's dead while it's in tow mode. Just to show you that now, we have a little LED indicator light on there. Let's go ahead and plug this into our factory port. As we can see there, no power. So let's go ahead and remove this now. Let's go ahead and attach it to our Roadmaster 12-volt outlet, which you can see we have installed down here. If we plug that in, we can see the red light illuminate here on our plug, although it is faint. So in regards to installation, this one's actually super simple. There's only really going to be two wires. We're going to have a bracket which we can mount in a location of our choosing. It just has to be within reach of our braking system. But essentially, we'll mount the bracket, then we'll run our wires into the engine bay of the vehicle using a grommet here in the Firewall, and then directly to the battery. But that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and jump into that installation so we can show you how it's done. So the first step of our installation here, we need to find a way inside the vehicle here, because our 12-volt outlet socket is going to connect to the battery and the plug is going to be run inside to the vehicle, so we can plug it in, to which in this case is going to be our supplemental braking system. Now, in order to get inside the cab of our vehicle here, we're going to open the hood here. We're going to come over here to the driver's side, directly beside our brake booster. And if we look down in there, we're going to be able to see a grommet, which we can push out and run our wires through. So here's a better view of the grommet we'll be using to pass our wires through. So we can see it's directly beside our brake booster here on the driver's side. It's going to be that little plastic grommet there. So here's our grommet we just removed. What I did is I just took a pair of needle nose pliers. I just pulled outward on that tab, and it allowed us to pop the grommet all the way off. So now we're simply going to drill out a hole in the center of our grommet here in order to pass our wires through. That way we can reinstall the grommet. We don't have to worry about any water or air getting inside the vehicle. So once we have our hole drilled, we'll go ahead and reinstall our grommet into the Firewall here. So now we need to come inside the cab of our Jeep here. We're going to take the mounting bracket for our 12-volt outlet. As you can see here, one side has these little triangles here, these spikes. These spikes are actually going to be facing us, facing the driver. So we can go ahead and install this now. It really doesn't matter where we install this. We just need it in a location that we can easily access so we can plug in the outlet with our braking system. So we're going to be installing it on this kick panel here, probably right under here, right around where our door sort of hinge is going. So probably on that surface there, but again, it doesn't really matter where you install it. We can install it anywhere along here. We just need it to be within reach for our braking system. But once we have a location here, we can go ahead and take our self-tapping screws. We can go ahead and attach that to this mounting surface. And there we go. So the next thing we're going to do, we're actually going to be extending the wires on our outlet kit. And the reason we need to do this is our battery is actually located on the passenger side of the vehicle here, and the location we need to run the plug is going to be into the driver's side footwell. So we are going to need to extend our 12-volt outlet kit here. However, we want to be careful that when we're extending the wires, it's going to be behind the fuse. So here's our fuse, the fuse holder here. We want to extend the wires between the socket and the fuse holder. So I'm going to be cutting both the ground and the positive cord here, both of the wires. That way I can extend them between there and we can run them into the vehicle. So in order to help get our wires from inside the cab out to the engine bay or vice versa, we're going to be taking a piece of airline tubing. We're simply going to run it through that hole that we made in our grommet earlier. We push that down in there, and essentially the reason for this is when we come inside the cab, we can then tape our wires from the outlet kit to this airline tubing. That way, once we have them taped up, we can pull the airline tubing back through the firewall, bring our wires along with it. So here we can see we have our airline tubing ran inside the vehicle here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 12-volt outlet plug. I'm going to take the two ends that we just cut off earlier, and I'm going to feed these through that bracket that we just installed. Feed that all the way through until the plug seats into position like so. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two ends here and I'm going to tape them here to our piece of airline tubing. That way, as we said, we'll go back on the outside of the vehicle in the engine bay, and I'll pull the wires through by pulling the airline tubing. And there we have it. So now I'm just going to take a zip tie here. I'm just going to zip tie it to a harness so we don't have to worry about the wire falling back through or getting a bunch of slack there where our feet are going to be and the brake pedals are. But at this time now, we're going to take our two bare wires here. As we mentioned, we cut them earlier. I'm going to go ahead and take some duplex wire. Really anything you have. This is going to be 16 gauge wire. We just want to make sure that we don't use any smaller wire. Ideally, we'd want to go up a little bit, preferably to 14 gauge. But we're going to extend these wires, and then we're going to splice on the two connectors that we removed previously. So now that we have our wires extended, we're going to go ahead and route them over to the passenger side of the vehicle and to our battery. What we can do now is we can go ahead and attach the two ends that we cut off earlier. However, if you notice, we did cut off the fuse splice that was on the end of the one with our fuse holder in favor of a ring terminal, since we are going directly to the battery. So right now, we're just going to go ahead and splice those two on to the wire that we extended earlier. So now that we have our two wire leads spliced on, we can go ahead and attach the one with the fuse holder to a positive battery terminal, and then the one with just a ring terminal, no fuse holder, to the negative battery terminal. So what we're going to do is we're going to peel off this red protective coating here, and we're actually going to come inside this little slot here to help us manage our wire. So once we have our wire through here, we're actually going to be removing that nut there, which we can do so with a 10mm socket. Once we have that removed, we can go ahead and attach our ring terminal. Then we can go ahead and re-secure our nut. So then finally, we have our negative lead here. It's going to be the same nut as over there, 10mm socket. And we'll just zip that back down. And there we have it. So now that we have all of our connections made, we could go ahead and use any sort of 12-volt accessory to make sure we're getting power to the plug inside our vehicle. But once that's done, we can go ahead and seal up our connection with the grommet using some silicone. And that's going to do it today for our look and installation of the Roadmaster 12-volt outlet kit here on our 2021 Jeep Gladiator.